Tell us what you thought and what maybe has occurred and what surprised you from your clients' responses.
I think the one thing that was really beneficial to us is we started looking at our patient consults as addressing the price as just part of the reality of the treatment plan. Okay. So instead of waiting for it to become a barrier, we removed the barrier. From a practice standpoint, it's been really good just to help people be more thorough with their consultation instead of just doing entry-level stuff like, oh, someone wants skincare. We just started utilizing it with every single transaction so that any patient that we are going to interact with, at some point, if we want to put them on a payment plan, we weren't shopping out of our own pockets. So it really helped us be able to communicate more effectively. And it was kind of the direction we were already going. We had used Cherry in the past. We've used Care Credit. And the fees and everything that we were encountering just didn't seem very good for us. You know, we didn't have as much risk initially, but I think the type of patients, we've only really had a problem with one patient out of 1,000 plans we've made.
Wow.
I think it's been a really good tool, and we just utilize it with every single person.
So go back to your consultation. Where was it that you finally recognized this is important and we need to bring it up in every consultation? How did you even make that decision?
Because every patient comes in with a 20-year younger looking goal. They're like, I want to be 20 years younger tomorrow. And we have to really focus on that can't happen in one treatment. And what are you doing at home to change this? And what are we responsible? So putting the accountability on both parties to achieve the goal has really changed the way we're interacting with our patients and the way they're responding, how susceptible they are to doing more than one treatment or having a treatment plan. So
is this quite different than what you did before? Can you describe what that
that
consultation looked like before and how it maybe is different now?
I don't think the consultation is really extremely different than it was before. The only thing that we're able to offer is kind of an in real-time plan. So people can see, like, some patients will use it at the beginning and some patients will really utilize it at the end. And we'll let them titrate up to their goals, meaning if they can afford $200 or $300 a month, then it really helps them to be able to visualize that if we're suggesting a $10,000 treatment plan, it's more affordable than $10,000. So it overcomes the sticker shock of having to do that. In our plans, we included a deposit. So the other thing that's really great with Puurk that I've really liked, and we've bossed and worked together with Russell and Jared and Matt on, is being able to select our down payment. So as a practice owner, the problem that I have is if I'm doing in-house financing, what am I losing as a provider? Well, I felt in this way, if I did the deposit and the commission for the product, I just have an opportunity to gain. And I think that that's a hard thing to overcome initially. I would say the hardest thing that we first had to think about was cash flow. We're used to having all this cash at once. And for the first about 2 or 3 months, that was a little bit bumpy for me, just because I was like, whoa, crap. But people were doing bigger ticket items and financing them, and they weren't paying them off over 2 years. They were paying them off much more quickly. And then the other thing that we had to add, I don't know if it's changed yet, was if they could add on to their payment plans, because they wanted to be able to add. So you would sell them a $4,000 treatment plan, and in 4 or 5 months they would come back and be like, oh, what can I add? And you were like, huh? It helped me to stop shopping out of my own pocket and shopping. I don't do girl math. So it was a cool thing for me to learn, because my background is science and business. So I was like, that's not free. And they would be like, it's free. So it's really helped me like teach my patients about how to consume aesthetic medicine and how to make it affordable based on your personal goals and your income. Because a lot of people think that Botox or a full facial consultation, filler, Sculptra, threads, laser treatments, a halo, they think that that's out of their reach. And when you put them on Puurk, they feel like they can participate in aesthetic treatments and it doesn't interrupt their whole life, especially with the economy right now and all the inflation and stress. People tend to really like it.
So how do you get to this, what they can afford per month? You mentioned that. Is that something that comes up naturally, or do you ask?
I think the one benefit that I have is I have somebody that manages this that's superb at communication. Kelly really, really speaks to people and she'll be like, oh, if that doesn't work for you, what about this? And in real time, they can look at it right on their phone. And then when they're picking something, they're not saying, oh, I can only afford this. There's a little bit of space with that phone, and there's not the feeling of pretending like they have more money or being like, well, I want to, you know what I mean? They don't have to explain their finances to us. And I think that's a really cool, just little buffer. So we both can see the same screen, but them being able to pick their payment plan that works for them. And then at first, my friend Jared was like, blah, 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 don't shop out of your own pocket. And I was like, cool, Jared. And I
What do
listened
you
to
mean
him.
by that? Just clarify what you mean by shop out of your own pocket.
Well, because for me, I just have, for me, there, like each person has their priorities, right? How we prioritize stuff varies. And you'll have like your cousin that buys like 4 cars and you're like, what's going on, cousin? But you may buy 4 shoes. Who knows? But when you start to let people make that choice on their phone, it's the same thing that someone's doing on Klarna at 2 in the morning buying a pair of shoes. I'm just letting them do it right in front of me and they pick the plan that works best for them. You know
Ooh,
what I
I
mean?
love that. I love that.
Yeah, because I think that anonymity, like just that little bit of privacy where they pick what works for them, makes them feel empowered, and it also gives them kind of that little space not to explain their finances, right?
Was that a recognizable difference? Is discomfort when you're bringing up
Yeah.
finance stuff? Is that a common thing?
Yeah, it is. And I think what happens with a provider, because I provide services, functional medicine and injectables, there's a part where you are in a therapeutic relationship with a person. And then when you talk about money, it breaks that therapeutic relationship.
Mm,
So having somebody on your staff and making it a part of the consultation really enables you to maintain your therapeutic relationship and then put them on a payment plan that works for them. So having it as part of your practice, but not always being you to breach it or them coming into your room ready to know what's going on, and really creating value in your services and your plans, right? Because what's setting you apart from another spa? In Utah, we're one of the most competitive markets in the
right.
industry, maybe next to Beverly Hills. I'm talking out of my butt. No,
It is.
I don't know.
It is
But
among the top for
yeah,
sure.
I would
So
say that it helps us even be more adept at communicating that.
give us the
I think
flow for the client and how you would approach this and advise a typical provider to approach this in their
I
consultation.
think that kind of each one of our providers is a little bit different. We will bring up the price and cost in the room when we're going over a consult, but we're talking about everything that they need over time and the products that support those outcomes. As we do that, we're developing value, right? So how we overcome cost, it just depends on people's goals and how far they want to go down the rabbit hole of aesthetics. Because some people want to put sunblock on and that's their aesthetic medicine, and some people want a facelift in 5 years. So we just have to kind of qualify where our patient lands on that continuum and then how we want to approach it. Every single patient we run through Puurk no matter what, just to start the process. And it doesn't matter what treatment they're on, we can change what they're doing. So I guess some of our consultation is proprietary, so we're not going to share all of
Okay.
that with you. But we are going to say, like, when we meet with a patient, we're talking about them as a whole and not as a nose or an eye or a crow's foot. You know what I mean? We
And so
talk about,
you take a very comprehensive approach. You're
yeah.
interested in the whole
And
body.
even if somebody is first starting out with Botox, let's just talk about a brand new provider or a smaller practice. A really good thing is get the patient used to doing on-label dosage for like Botox, 64 units. Across the nation, average consumption of Botox is about 37 units. So that means most patients are getting undertreated. Their Botox doesn't tend to last as long depending upon where they're at in their aging cycle, if it's prevention, if it's corrective, that type of thing. So just getting them to understanding, okay, depending upon how much they're charging a unit, this is $700 to $1,000. That can be something hard for someone to overcome. So saying, okay, well, we have an option where you can get your treatment today and just pay over time. With a lot of places, like with Care Credit, you're paying a pretty big fee to not have that interest. Or so what we do is we explain, you can have your treatment and you can select a payment plan. And then Kelly's always like, there is an added premium to this where they're paying to have the treatment now and they can pay, decide how fast to pay it off. So what we do is always just take the deposit for the cost and the commission. So if somebody's doing, like if you're doing a procedure that costs $250 and the commission is 20%, your deposit is $400. I think that's been the only place we've really seen a barrier is if people haven't been able to pay like a deposit. I think that's been some places with the barrier, but we have broken that rule and then we decide not to. Like there's been a couple patients that were like, sure, and then we are like, no. So we've established our own boundaries with this as well,
Love it.
where we beta tested it in our practice and said, who's a candidate? And we said, everyone. And when we make everybody a candidate, we've had more successful outcomes.
So does Kelly do this? So to give context for Kelly, she's at the front desk. She's taking phone calls. She's on the computer. Does Kelly send them a text when they walk in? Does she preload contacts into the computer? How does she do it?
We've done it both ways. It depends on the rapport with the client and what they're doing. Sometimes we will start the conversation in the room and then Kelly will finish it at the front desk. So we make sure before they step out of the room or before they receive their treatment, they're clear on the price, right? And then what I've noticed is in the room, they're clear on the price with me. Let's say that we're doing a full face of filler and I've quoted them like $5,800, whatever it is. I will think that they are paying the full amount and we've like qualified it. And then sometimes, and I'll be like, we also have in-house. And to my face, they will say, no, I'm fine. That's great. I would love this. Even if you like explain this, then they go to the front desk and they talk with Kelly and they're like, you know what? I would really like that in-house thing. So that therapeutic or the way they perceive themselves to me is going to be incredibly different than the front desk. So we've done both ways where we preload it in the room and then it's a weird sale. Sometimes it really just depends on the patient, but every single patient is put in the system. And sometimes we'll come out of the room and be like, we already have the Puurk plan set up. Could you just go ahead and help them with that? And then sometimes she'll be more, usually she defines like which plan they want. Because like I said, to my face, people will be like, and then
They got all the money in the world.
yeah, and then they go out to Kelly and they'll, they'll roll up. You can see in my office, like I can see every patient that rolls up. They'll roll up in their, like their fancy Tesla or whatever they're in, and then they'll be like, I want to be on a payment plan, you know, and I don't have to know and I don't care. Like we can maintain our therapeutic relationship and it makes it so they can afford the treatments they want and they can even change their payment plan, It's been a really good it's been a really good thing for them to be able to call Puurk and work with them too, right? Because we've had a couple of patients that have had medical problems when we first started, and they were able to talk to Puurk, and they're, like our finance people, and we don't have to deal with it. So we can still have that other layer of protection, right?
You're the good guy, Perk's the bad guy in those scenarios.
Right, right,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, such bad guys. It's great.
So, Celeste, what would you say to somebody on the fence right now, feeling like they've got a good process? It feels kind of like a disruption. What do you say to them?
I don't really feel like you have anything to lose. I would implement it with one provider and your strongest front desk person. I would
Okay.
implement it with one provider, and I would see, okay, here's how my average sales with this provider went over the last 60, 30, 90 days, and see if you notice a change in your average ticket for this provider. That's a way for you to test it in your own practice and see if it has value for you, right? Then that way it's not like, oh, this is what Matt or Jared or Celeste says. It actually works. And I was more surprised because personally I don't hit Klarna, but everyone is. I mean, it's a product that people are using, right?
Yep.
So being able to provide this in a setting where I wasn't aware of how much people wanted to participate in it, and then once they had access to this, how much it was like, okay, I'm going to do this.
Right.
It's been a really positive thing. It was really hard for us at first just because we already had a system that was pretty effective, but it was only effective because our paradigm was the way we had always done it.
Mm.
When we shifted our paradigm a little bit and said, okay, we're going to use this in our practice, and if not anything, we can save our credit card fees by charging it to our patient, we've won. So if we started with we were going to win no matter what, it helped us implement it into our practice better. And it's really kind of changed who has access to what we're offering. And then also the spending patterns of people that were already purchasing here was shocking to me, where
Mm.
Patients decided to go with a payment plan, and you're like, huh, that's crazy. You've never done that before in your whole life, and I've seen you for 8 years, and you didn't even know, and they don't know, and nobody knows. It's like a little cute secret in the corner.
And there's a layer of comfort in them feeling like you don't know, a level of pride maintained.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. So I think for our practice, we love it and we'll keep using it. And if somebody has random questions, they can text us or call us, and if they want to see it a little bit in action, we're so happy to support them.
So, guys, I will just finish on this. Celeste is an encyclopedia of knowledge and experience. She's got a business degree, a nursing, and an advanced nursing degree. This is not just somebody who jumped into med spas because they loved art and felt like they can make, really beautiful changes on people's skin. She is a very savvy business person, which is why I wanted to make our first Instagram live with her, because she touches on the business side and the emotional side, because you guys are in an emotionally
Yeah.
driven business. Would you agree with that?
I mean, my patients are my most important, and then my employees. So for me, if I can't achieve their outcomes or give them what they're looking for, then we refer them. And we're accountable to them to provide them with phenomenal outcomes. And so I think when we use Puurk, it kind of pushed us to be able to shoot for the moon, and wherever the patient lands is their choice.
Okay, we will be in touch. And thank you all for joining. We'll see
All
you.
right, see you.